So the program today is called Do Not Try This Alone. And by that I mean looking for a job. I tell you this is in the handbook, this is on our website, this is delivered in the new member orientation, that I believe looking for a job is too scary to do by yourself. And one of the reasons that it is too scary to do by yourself is that you may not realize it yet, although I'm sure some of you do, that you have all crossed over into a parallel universe that is not governed by logic. Sometimes you are the best qualified person, you had all the right answers, you had the best resume, and here you still sit coming to these meetings where somebody with a fraction of your qualifications got that job that should have been your job. And it messes with your mind. And you begin to doubt how marketable you are, how smart you are, the quality of those accomplishments that you've always been so proud of. Maybe they weren't so hot after all. And so I think you need to surround yourself with a team of people that are the smartest, most creative, dynamic, supportive, energetic, upbeat, positive, encouraging people that you can possibly find. Because you need a focus group, you need a group that will help keep you centered and help keep you motivated and moving on. The hardest part about the job search process, I believe, is the continuing. Because every time you don't get an interview, don't get a job offer that you think you should have, it eats away at your already damaged confidence level. And so I don't think you should try this by yourself. I think you should always have a team of people that will help you get through it. So when you were in the workplace, when you were working, how many of you worked on teams? Yeah, see, you're used to this. You're used to surrounding yourself with a team of smart people, all working, sharing their expertise, working toward a common goal. And we're very comfortable with that. We love that team process. You had a break room, probably, where you, or a cafeteria or something, where you interacted with other people, you shared ideas, you had some conversational and possibly intellectual stimulation, because you're talking to other people, you're sharing things. You sometimes have happy hours where your department or your team all goes and socializes. Sometimes you have parties where you share information, and so a big chunk of your social life was also defined by the workplace. And the people with whom you socialized were your coworkers. And so you had this very rich, diversified, multi-layered life of interaction with other people. How many of you worked in a place that actually had like a game room, like the tech companies have, where they have foosball and pool? Okay, so a few of you were like that. See, I worked for the state. None. Okay. Nobody has fun in the state. But at any rate, you were used to all of this interaction. Your life while you're looking for a job is much more solitary generally. It's an individualized effort. You're isolated. For some people, it's lonely. You wake up in the morning and it's just you and the dog, and you spend a lot of time on the computer. It's very frustrating because things just don't happen the way they should. It's somewhat scary. When I lost my job, that was the only emotion that I had room for, was fear. And so it's very scary, and it certainly is not any fun. Any of you having fun looking for a job? Okay, well, this one's the crazy one. But yeah, it's not fun. It's scary. It's a little bit exciting because you don't know what the future holds, and could be it's going to be an even better opportunity than what you had before. And so there's that anticipation of something good in the future. But in the immediate real time, it's scary not having an income, especially if you were the breadwinner. And so it's scary. You've got kids that need college, and that's coming up, and your prospects are limited, so it's scary. And that brings me to backpacking. These are Boy Scouts, but you can't tell who they are, so let me just say that they're coworkers. Backpacking. My next door neighbor is an outdoor jock kind of person. She goes to fitness camp every year, and every fall she takes an extensive, primitive backpacking trip with a bunch of friends, and they're trucking in all their food, and they hang it in a bear bag in a tree, and it's hiking through sort of unmarked trails, and a lot of orienteering and so forth, and she does marathons and triathlons and things like that. So she's very fit, and she was telling me that last year when they went on a hike, they were trying to hike the 4 Peaks, whatever that is, in Colorado. And so lots of preparation, lots of fitness, and just when they were the day that they were supposed to do the 4th peak, which she had never done, or the 4th pass, it's 4 passes, I'm sorry, one of the guys who had not trained enough, and he said, I don't think I can do it, I think that the altitude is getting to me, and so I need to leave, I need to go out. And the policy is that you never go out by yourself. So she felt, fine, I really want to do that pass, but she walked out with him. So she was a little bit bitter about that all this year. But that's the point, is that you never go by yourself. There's always 2. There are always 2 that go. And so she had to abort her trip at the very last minute and walk out with him. But it's because nobody should do that by yourself. It's too scary to do by yourself. It's too isolated to do by yourself. You never know what's going to happen. What if you get lost? You never go by yourself. So there always should be 2 people. And I think job hunting, even though you have indoor plumbing, you have a roof over your head, it's just as scary. It's just as scary. And you need somebody with you. Now, we encourage you to form SWAT teams. There's a SWAT team thing in your handbook. A SWAT team is 3 to 6 people who meet on a regular basis, once a week, once a day, and so search with a team. That's what that's like. The first time that I heard about a SWAT team, that was not my original idea, but we had a gentleman who was laid off he was a lead or supervisor manager, I guess it was, 10 years with Applied Materials. And they had a big layoff, and so he had formed what I named it as a SWAT team, with other people that had been laid off with him. So they all knew each other, they knew their capabilities, and what they did was they created an Excel spreadsheet, and they created weekly goals for the team. So they said, whatever, I don't know what the goals were, but let's just say every week we're going to go to 2 networking meetings, we're going to do 1 informational interview, 1 cold call, and we're going to send out 10 resumes. And so they had the weekly goals, and then every Friday they met and they saw who reached their goals. And if you reached your goals, then your line on the Excel spreadsheet was filled in with green, success. If you came close, you were yellow, and if you didn't come close at all, then your area was filled in with red. And he said, I hate job hunting, I hate networking, I hate every single piece of this. But what got me out of bed on a Monday was knowing that I had to report to my team on Friday. And I'm very metric driven, and I wanted to be green. And so it was the SWAT team that kept him going. And then if you find somebody on your team that didn't make it, then it's like, well, what got in the way? Why didn't you do that? What distracted you from your job search goals? What got you off track? Let's talk about that a little bit. And if you consistently had somebody that wasn't participating, then maybe if they helped them all they could, and that person wasn't participating, then maybe they got somebody else. I don't know what the deal was. I just know that that's what kept him going. And it seems to me that he got laid off in the fall, like maybe October. And even though for our people, usually the holiday season is a very good time. Lots of our people go to work in the last quarter of the year. But he didn't get an interview in spite of the fact that he was so focused and driven and metricized, if that's a word. He didn't get an interview until April. And then everything, all of the places that he had contacted, all of the resumes he'd submitted, all of the connections that he had developed, they all started to sort of come to fruition in the spring. And after April, he started to get lots of interviews, lots of offers. So it all paid off in the end. But what kept him going in spite of perhaps failure, perhaps nothing working correctly, was his team. We had a SWAT team that grew up spontaneously at the Workforce Solutions office. We had some people that would come in every day, and they got to sort of know who they were, and they'd say, so what, I see you here all the time. What kind of work are you looking for? Well, I'm looking for this. Okay, well, I tell you what, while I'm looking for a job for myself, I'll keep my eyes peeled for something for you. So if I find something, how do I get in touch with you? You have a business card? Are you on LinkedIn? And so they formed, from the people that were coming in there every day, they formed a 4-person SWAT team. And then they got it in even a little bit more structured, and they started to meet at Jack in the Box by our office, and they'd have coffee, and then as soon as our office opened, they were in there at the computers, and it was like, here, I've got 3 jobs that I found for you last night, and when are we going to get together to tweak resumes, and how can I help you prepare for that job interview? And so it kept them, again, motivated and moving forward. There was a girl in the group who found a job posting, not a good fit for her, but a good fit for somebody else in the team, at a company called Hart Intercivic. And it's the company that makes our voting machines. And they were doing a lot of hiring. They hired that guy, and then because they were in a hiring frenzy, he was able to bring on board all the other 3 people from the team as well. So all 4 of them went to work at Hart. So it was a SWAT team success story. If I were seriously looking for a job, I think we all know that we are all available for new opportunities. Even when you get a job, you're always going to be kind of positioning yourself for a new job, just because you can't take anything for granted. So if I were seriously looking for a job, I would try to create a SWAT team that was not only a job search SWAT team, it would be an exercise SWAT team. And I would find people that were similarly inclined, and we would make a pact to get up every day at 6, and by 7 we were at the trail. And we'd spend the next hour sweating, hiking, running, biking, crawling, moving for an hour. And then we'd meet on some park bench with our Gatorade, and we'd talk about job hunting. So here are some jobs, when are we going to get together? And we keep ourselves motivated in the exercise program as well as in the job search. So you can use this in lots of different ways. We've had SWAT teams that have met at people's houses, and whenever somebody from your SWAT team gets a job, you need to find a replacement. You don't ever want to be the last man standing with everybody else in your SWAT team employed, and there you are looking for a rafter and a rope. So you always want to keep filling in the spaces. Another kind of way to utilize people is to go back and reconnect with folks that you've worked with before. And I know that you've all heard this a dozen times, and yet we don't do it. We don't do it. Go back through LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a wonderful opportunity for that. Go back into the advanced search on LinkedIn. Put in a company that you used to work for before, a department name maybe as a keyword, and say, I want to see people. Put in the zip code for the place that you were, and say, I want to see people that worked in this department in the past. And see if somebody pops up that you worked with before. Reconnect with that person and see where they're working now. And maybe I mean, you can at least just reconnect with them. It doesn't always have to be can you help me get a job where you are? It's, I want to reconnect. I'm utilizing, I found new ways to use LinkedIn. I'm trying to reconnect with people that I used to work with. And let's get together. And so Jim Adcock, some of you know him. He is the vice president of Launchpad Job Club. He's the vice president of our board of directors. And he told us he just found a job. He has been unemployed and hired maybe 4 or 5 times over the last 15 years. And he thought he was doing the right thing this time by, he had been connecting with recruiters for all the companies where he wanted to work, and he sent them all an email and said, I'm available, I'd like to work for your company. And he got a few returns on that, but people would say, yeah, we'll get back to you, let me see if we have anything. But it wasn't panning out, months were going by. And so he went into his network of all the SharePoint people that he knew through the SharePoint users group. He had been a speaker at that group, and he just sent a shout out to all of his SharePoint people and said, hey, I'm a SharePoint guy, I'm looking for work. And within 24 hours, he had a job offer. 24 hours. And it was the people that he knew that he'd worked with before, just through those informal areas. I believe I'm going to tell you this story correctly, but this person's in the room, so if I screw this up, he'll correct me. But Dan was reconnecting with people that he used to work with before, and discovered a guy that they'd sort of kept in touch over the years at their different jobs. And I believe that this guy was working for Dell, and he said, hey, let's get together, let's go have lunch or whatever. And the guy said, sure, I'll be glad to, and discovered that Dan was looking for a job. He's a hardware kind of guy, and the guy went back to Dell, where he now works, submitted his resume for a testing position. And so I don't know if it's going to lead to anything. He's not employed yet, but it was movement, it was contact, it was an opportunity that hadn't been there before. So reconnecting and helping each other is always a good way to do it. Some of you remember Gina Helfrich. Gina Helfrich is a PhD person who used to manage the diversity program, I think, at Harvard, and came to Austin and was telling us, she was a speaker here, telling us about how she came down to participate in, I think it was the South by Southwest Interactive, met a bunch of people, had a bunch of coffee with people, discovered that there was a need for diversity in the hiring practices of tech companies in Austin. And so she went on Austin Digital Jobs, a wonderful Facebook group, and said, is there a recruiter out there that would like to work with me on diversity programs? And that outreach to somebody she didn't even know ended up with her collaborating, co-founding a staffing company called Recruit Her, working with tech companies in Austin on more diverse hiring. And it sounded as though she was doing everything right, but that company, her staffing company, just closed down. And it was not generating enough revenue. And so I sent her a message on LinkedIn and said, I was so sorry to hear it. It was a great concept. There was such a need for that in Austin. But I assume you're looking for another job. You're so well networked in Austin, it shouldn't take long. But if there's anything that I can do or that Launchpad could do to help you, let us know. And she said, I'm back to my MO that worked so well for me before. I've got a lot of coffee scheduled with people. I'm spreading the word that I'm available. I'm looking for opportunities, and I'll keep you posted as to what happens. So back tapping into her network, being very, very active. Do not keep the fact that you're unemployed a secret. You want to spread it with as many people as you possibly can. I have a son who, I have 2 sons who work in the semiconductor industry, and several years ago, one of my sons was contacted by a person that he had worked with 10 years earlier in Austin. So the 2 of them worked at the same company for just a year, and then the other guy got a job, I think, with Novellus up in the Northwest somewhere. and his company had a job opening, and he said to the boss, I used to work with somebody in Austin that I think would be perfect for this job. Let me see if I can find him, and if he's at all interested. And so found him through LinkedIn and contacted him and said, would you like to come up here and work for Novellus? And it was in a job that he's never done before. And he said, you know, I'm really happy in Austin. My family's really happy in Austin. If you wanted me to come work for you, you'd really have to make it worth my while. And so, but they interviewed. He said, I'd be happy to talk to you. So they interviewed, and he got the job, and they did make it worth his while. And so he's up in the Northwest working there. But it was something where it was tapping back into a colleague from 10 years ago. So those connections need to be nurtured, and it's not just can you help me get a job, it's how can we help each other, what can I do for you as well. It goes both ways. Some of you know Christine Botha, Shannon's gone, I guess. She lives in Cedar Park. I thought she might be interested in being on that board of directors. But Christine started going through my classes years ago, maybe 10 years ago, started going through my classes that I teach. And my husband worked for a small company at the time that needed somebody in their front office. And they had put an ad on Craigslist, and they'd gotten 80 resumes almost overnight. And it was a small company. They don't have an HR department. Nobody had time to go through those 80 resumes, and so they just sat there in a big stack. And my husband said, I know somebody that I think might be good for this job. She's never done anything like this before, but she's smart, and she's got a great personality. You want to talk to her? Well, yeah, companies always would prefer to hire somebody they know. She got that job. They didn't even interview anybody but one person from that whole stack of resumes. And the very same thing happened. She stayed there for, I think, 6 years, 8 years, and the company just changed hands, and she got laid off. And so she's been looking for things, and my husband works now for a different company. They again needed somebody, and he said, see if Christine would be interested in this. The guy that's the hiring manager had put a posting on Indeed, and he said, she better, if you know somebody, you better tell them to contact me quickly. We've already gotten 120 people applying for this job through Indeed. They didn't interview anybody but Christine. She's the only one, and she starts tomorrow. She starts Monday. So again, the system, you can get a job through a job posting, but it's so much better to get a job through somebody that knows you, somebody that'll put in a good word for you. So this is too scary to do all by yourself and relying on that system of applying for a posted job and hoping that you get an interview. Get somebody on the inside if you can that'll put in a good word for you. Volunteering, another way to meet people. You're helping them, and hopefully that in return they'll be helping you. We had a Launchpad member named Steve who was a network administrator. He had taken off 3 years because his father became ill. He quit his job. I think he worked for IBM, as a matter of fact. Took off 3 years, nursed his dad till his dad died. Had to settle a very big, complicated estate. And finally, after 3 years of not working, now he's trying to get a job as a network administrator. So it was just difficult for him to crack back into that career field. But he was an avid volunteer with Sierra Club, led expeditions and so forth. He's sitting in a canoe with somebody, and the guy says, so what do you do for a living when you're not doing canoeing? And he says, well, I don't do anything right now. I'm looking for a job as a network administrator. I've been out of the field for a while, and I'm trying to get back into it. And the guy said, we're looking for a network admin guy in our office. You want to come work for us? That was it. That was essentially his interview, I think. So, they're not going to come to your house. You have to get out. You have to talk to people. A guy named Tom used to work for Siemens, as I recall, as a programmer. And he really didn't want to do programming anymore just because it's so, you're always having to learn new software, and it's, you know, it's so volatile. He thought what I really wanted to do was do database administration. And so he didn't, I mean, he knew about databases, he knew how to do it, but he hadn't ever had any experience. So he volunteered. I think he did a DBA job through Leap to Success, but he also volunteered at a couple other nonprofits that he knew about and said, you want me to organize your databases, set them up, administer them for you for a while, all without pay, but to get experience, to get the kind of experience that he needed. And he ended up leveraging that new experience and getting a job at TechStop, where he's been ever since. I have a friend named Erica who volunteered for Habitat for Humanity. Lots of times companies will have a team that they'll send to Habitat for Humanity to build a house. And so she was volunteering, she was working on the construction crew, and ended up meeting a lot of people who were assigned to the same house, and she ended up getting a job through that. So you can strategically volunteer at places where you know there'll be volunteers at a company where you want to work. But just getting out there and doing things and volunteering, you're providing a service and you're interacting with people in a very informal way. And then use them. And then anytime you can volunteer through Leap to Success, we've had several people that worked on Leap to Success projects and then got hired by those nonprofits that used their skills and saw how smart they were and how effective they were and how lovable they were, and they hired them through a Leap to Success project. So that can also work to your behalf. We have people that, because you've gotten out of bed and taken a shower and gotten dressed and sobered up, for some of you, and come to a meeting, sometimes it could be that Margaret is going to get a job for our medical lady. I forgot her name already. But it could be that that connection is going to pay off. It could be that some of you are going to go to work for Randstad because of something you heard at Launchpad. Some people tell me that they come to Launchpad meetings and the other job clubs. There are other job clubs in Austin as well. That this is their booster shot. This is what gets them pumped about getting back in the fray and doing it. And especially if they've had rejection, sort of all week long, and then boom, Launchpad, yay, they win a door prize, they get pumped up, they meet somebody cool. I'm going to tell you a joke just to send you on your way today. But the point is that you get out and you talk to people and you interact, and you never know when somebody's going to say something that's going to make a difference. That's going to be the one kernel that's going to say, God, I hadn't even thought of that. Why didn't I do that? I'm pumped for the next week. I can't wait to get started on that. So that has to be your attitude. I teach classes at Workforce, and all the Workforce offices offer classes. Margaret just got a job. She's starting on the 29th. And she said that she's been working with a really good career counselor at the East office, but she started coming to the classes at the North office as well. And she participated in the mock interview program that we have. So we videotaped her, and she said that was a real turning point for her, that mock interview, practicing her presentation, getting some feedback as to how she comes across and how her answers could be better. And ever since then, she's been helping, in fact, that's going to be on here in a minute, she's been helping another person, Andres, whom she met in the mock interview classes. She's been helping him. So she's giving back already. She's been coming to mock interviews. She's been interviewing other people, giving them advice on how to improve their presentation. So it's all about sharing, collaborating, communicating, helping each other, because it's too scary to do by yourself. So Margaret and Andres, she's helping him rewrite his resume for a very specific new targeted career field. And so that's good. She's giving back already to him. Scott Killen. That's his picture. How many of you already know Scott Killen? I know he's well networked in town. One? Really? How many of you know him, but you just were too tired to put up your hands? Okay. Wow. That's amazing. He's one of the best networked people I've ever met. So Scott Killen went through Launchpad. I think he had many years. He's a software development project manager, and his job that he got laid off from when I first met him was very long, like 15, 20 years. And then after that, after he got his next job, then that one was short. He was back with us, then he got another job. That one was short-lived, and he came back to us. And he said every single time that he was laid off, he got smarter about how to do this. And the last time that he got laid off, he said, I decided to just change my whole focus. And instead of looking for a job for me, I decided to see how many other people I could help find jobs before I went back to work. Because I got this going back to work stuff. I know how to do that now. But I decided to see how many other people I could help. And it was amazing how he said that revitalized his job search so extensively. And he would go to these, he was a member of something like 14 or 15 networking groups. Austin Spin, Geek Austin, he created Agile Austin, started that. We used to have a thing called Top Guns. He led that for a while. He was in Toastmasters, a couple Toastmaster groups. He was in Central Austin Storytellers, Launchpad, I think another group. Anyway, lots and lots and lots of different networking groups. He said sometimes he would network 6 or 8 hours a day, networking, talking to people, sharing information, but helping people, helping somebody else made it so much easier. He would hear a conversation and he'd say, excuse me, I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but did I hear you say that you work for the so-and-so company? And they'd say yes, and they'd say, great, I'm part of a networking group and I'm trying to help a guy who's a CNC machine operator. Do you use that kind of machine in your manufacturing plant? Yeah, we do. Excellent, excellent. Would he have to know how to program, or would he just operate it? Would he do the setups? What would he do? Can you tell me who the hiring manager is? And he'd say, this may be asking too much. Would it be possible for me to connect him with you so that you might be able to tell him a little bit about the culture, maybe the hiring process? Would you be up to that? And so he's promoting this other person. And then in the course of that, lots of times they'd say, so do you work in manufacturing too? And he said, no, I'm a software development project manager, but I am looking for work. I just was trying to help some people find jobs on their own. But you know, we do have an IT department, and give me your resume and let me turn that on. So he would get helped often at the same time, but his focus was all on helping other people, and it changed the whole thing for him.